Here we go. There we go. We are
Thank
off
you.
and running. I like how Zoom, it doesn't like, that doesn't ever like become part of the recording, but Zoom always tells you that the recording has started. I really appreciate that.
Recording has started.
Recording has started. Thank you, Zoom.
Thank you. And then it gives you like your legal there too. Like
it's yeah. Because legally I have to inform you that I am recording you.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to have to go to legal Zoom as a result of a Zoom.
Absolutely not. Hello, welcome, friends.
Listeners, I'm just trying to give you a forewarning for the goofy.
We're just yes. We already noted before we started recording that getting our sillies out before we start does not guarantee that there won't be silly, and like it's going to happen. So
it's almost like when you tell a kid not to do something and then right? They're like, no, but I'm gonna have to do it now because you've told me to do it.
Right. So, yeah. Well, anyway.
Hello.
We're glad you're back, that you have decided to join us for part two of our Knives Out 2. Yeah. Two. Knives Out also is what
Knives Out. My knives are also out.
My knives have been out for quite some time.
Yes.
Yay. What did we Yes, we're talking about Knives Out again.
Yeah.
What did we talk about last time?
Last time we were ago. I know. Last time we were shocked at the medium of a video record for most of the episode.
We were so pleased that we figured out how to record video of ourselves.
And then we had one of our classic freeform discussions, formerly ABC family discussions. We had a good time.
Love those. Yeah, we talked a lot about what we want to see in the sequel, particularly what we want the sequel to be called. We're very concerned about the title of the Knives Out sequel, which if you follow us on Instagram, you've seen a few posts about that. So
Rhonda is an artist and we love it.
I apologize deeply.
Brilliant. No, don't you bask in that. Those are amazing. Yes, there you go.
Yes.
I liked your jazz hands that were like
thank you.
They were kind of like rain a little bit.
Yeah, it's like spirit fingers meets rain
meets
because we live in Washington.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. So we talked about like what we want to see in the sequel. We kind of meandered a little bit around like our favorite characters, our favorite performances. And then we started to dip just a little bit into sort of the broader mystery genre and how we see Knives Out fitting into this tradition of the whodunit or the detective story. And we're going to talk about that some more.
Yeah, we're going to have I feel like our part twos are often more into like the how it's done, and then we push out a little bit into more like associated topics.
Yeah.
So this is no different. We're going to talk about
how did this get made? How did this get made? Is what? Yeah. How did this get made? Is
the best.
Yeah. Hold on. I feel like I need to move my hair because there's like. Okay, we're good to go. Okay. Yes. So we are going to talk about the legacy of the whodunit and how Knives Out fits into this tradition.
We have Tevye on later. He's going to help us out.
Lorelai Gilmore as Tevye.
And then in the third episode, we'll have Kirk as Tevye, and we'll see how they compare.
Yes.
Listeners at home who don't
So
know Fiddler are like, who is Tevye?
Fiddler on the Roof.
Is he a friend of theirs?
Great. Yes. Thank you for coming, Tevye. Okay. I'm gonna be serious now.
But everyone look at Rhonda's mug though first.
If you
She got
can't
the
see
mug.
it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to Marta's mug that she has at the end of the movie, which is Harlan's mug at the beginning of the movie. So
Yeah.
it's great. My house, my rules, my coffee. Okay. So we're going to talk about the legacy of the Whodunit. And let me tell you, I really dug into this. I don't like talking about this very much, but I did major in English literature when I was in college, and I did take a class on Victorian popular fiction, and we did read some detective stories. So I know some things about the beginnings of detective fiction, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to brag. That's just a fact.
No, she's a lady with her accomplishments. She was not bragging. She was just letting us know.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just like, Aaron, stop talking.
Aaron, I thought you were like trying to get me to stop talking.
Never.
That could happen. That I could stand to talk less.
No.
Which is why I have a podcast. So going back to the origins of detective mystery whodunit fiction, so we can date it back to like the mid 1800s or so. We have the works of Edgar Allan Poe in the mix there. The first, what's widely regarded as the first ever detective novel is The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, which I did not read for my Victorian popular fiction class, but I did read another Wilkie Collins novel called The Woman in White, which is also a detective novel, but it's an amateur detective in The Woman in White. So kind of fun there. So mystery fiction, mystery and suspense fiction continued to gain popularity throughout the late 1800s, where we see probably still the most famous detective in fiction, Sherlock Holmes, in the 1880s and 90s. So, but the term whodunit is an interesting one. So, of course, we have stories that we could term whodunits being written throughout the 19th century and the early 20th century, but the term whodunit wasn't officially coined until 1930. And this was in a review of the detective novel Half-Mast Murder. And the reviewer was named Donald Gordon, and he used the term whodunit to describe the story. And that's the first time we have the word whodunit appearing in print.
Way to go, Gordon. Wow.
Yeah. So 1930, you could say, is like right in the middle of what's called the golden age of mystery fiction. So this is the time, 1920s, 1930s, a little bit into the 40s, where we see really popular whodunits. Agatha Christie, probably the most famous, but then we also have like Dorothy Sayers and a few other contemporary authors who really capitalized on that genre. Agatha Christie is also known for kind of the locked door mystery, which Knives Out kind of plays into that tradition as well. And then as we move away from like the 1930s and 40s into more like the 1950s, the whodunits that we saw earlier on in this century, readers were kind of like getting wise to those. They started becoming like more predictable. There was kind of a formula that they all followed. So
Sure.
Readers were more interested in what sort of developed into hard-boiled, quote unquote crime fiction, and like noir, detective noir fiction.
Okay.
So the whodunit was a very British genre at the beginning. So hard-boiled crime fiction was kind of America's answer to that. So hard-boiled detective fiction or noir fiction was like darker. It tended to be more violent. There was more like raw emotion involved in it. And the conventions of like noir or hard-boiled detective fiction do have a lot in common with the conventions of a classic whodunit, but it just gives it a little more edge, and it gets away from sort of like the polite society of like an Agatha Christie whodunit.
Sure.
Right. So, of course, while we have hard-boiled crime fiction coming in the 30s through the 50s, we have popular authors in the hard-boiled genre, like Dashiell Hammett, James M. McCain, and Raymond Chandler, who Rian Johnson has also cited as influences in his writing, in addition to like Agatha Christie and the more classic whodunit authors.
Sure.
So he did this interview, Rian Johnson did an interview with The Atlantic about his kind of his inspirations for Knives Out. The interviewer asked a really interesting question. They talk about how like something that we kind of brought up last episode about how like the whodunit or the classic murder mystery has kind of fallen out of fashion in recent years until Knives Out sort of revived it.
Yeah.
So the interviewer commented on that. He said like it's not a dead genre exactly. Because like I mentioned last time, we had the Murder on the Orient Express adaptation just a couple years before Knives Out. And Rian Johnson responds that he thought Murder on the Orient Express was great. He says, when you see a whodunit, you tend to see it as a period piece, which I think is an interesting observation. He says, because it's usually an Agatha Christie adaptation. So the idea of doing an original whodunit and setting it in America of 2019, not just giving it a modern skin, but really plugging into today, there is something about that seemed genuinely exciting. He goes on to say, with this movie, I was thinking about the form of the whodunit and the inherent weakness of that form, which is that it's just clue gathering leading up to a surprise. So the initial, right? So the initial idea was as simple and abstract as putting a Hitchcock thriller in the middle of a whodunit, but still turning it back into a whodunit at the end. So he says, I still get the pleasure of the denouement with the detective in the library.
Right.
Classic. He also talked a little bit about the character of Marta, who we, back in our Downton Abbey series, I talked a little bit about this idea of class and class commentary in kind of the English country manor story, which we saw with Agatha Christie, where, you know, kind of in that classic whodunit sense, we have like quote unquote the help who are always present, but they're either the villains or they're just kind of off to the side and not really developed characters very much. So with the character of Marta, we have kind of a twist on that classic kind of whodunit character. And Johnson says, it's interesting how that's always an element. It's something Gosford Park used to great effect. Gosford Park keys into something that's kind of baked into the genre, which is that it's uniquely suited to talking about class. In the same way most whodunits are period pieces, it's usually British class that these films focus on. So the idea of applying that to America seemed very interesting. And then he says, I got the idea of making Marta the central character and putting her in the role of the Hitchcock hero. He says, I wanted the movie to have a good heart. I really felt like it was important that the audience walk out of the movie smiling and bobbing their heads. And then the song choice at the end, Sweet Virginia by the Rolling Stones, is, playing over the credits, which is such a perfect song
Yeah.
for that. He says, but that ties back to my essential pleasure with the genre. You rarely end a whodunit in a very dark way, which is interesting
Right.
to note. That like
Yeah.
with like Hitchcock often has a dark ending, or like that kind of hard-boiled noir detective fiction, those often ended in very dark ways. So
Yeah.
bringing in that more satisfying ending of a whodunit. And then he also Johnson also wrote an op-ed for the LA Times about his inspiration of whodunits for the movie. So I just pulled out this one little paragraph that I thought put a cap on this exploration really well. He says, in the traditional Christie whodunit, the first act sets the table with a rogues gallery of suspects and one very powerful person who each of them has a reason to hate, who will obviously be the victim. What's interesting is that Christie never, or very rarely, draws our sympathy to the victim. The victim is usually a rich or powerful jerk, or at the very least, an annoying person. In the first,
Right.
right. In the first act, we're identifying with potential killers. Does that sound familiar? Their motives have to resonate with us. Their predicaments seem desperate and dire enough that if we were in their spot, well, who knows? Christie bends us into identifying with the potential killers, and there's nothing more Hitchcock than that. And he's kind of commenting here. He points out earlier on that like Alfred Hitchcock did not like the whodunit genre. He did not think that it was like that it was very creative or inventive, because like
Right.
as we kind of pointed out earlier, like it's just, you're just clue gathering throughout the whodunit, and then you get the answer, and it's like there's no,
Yeah.
like Hitchcock at least felt like there was no real like interest in getting to that conclusion, because it's like there's no like story logic, I suppose.
Right.
So it's interesting that he kind of put those two things together.
Yeah.
And then I did want to talk about just 3 movies that inspired Knives Out, or that we see like really strong echoes of these movies in Knives Out. So we have Gosford Park, which you've talked about a little bit, and we also talked about in Downton Abbey. So this is a Black comedy, and it follows a group of wealthy British socialites who are thrust into a murder mystery while they're staying at an English country house. And this Gosford Park, I really recommend that you watch Gosford Park, especially if you love Knives Out, because it's really just a brilliant and biting commentary on class and sort of the conventions of these like British social class kind of period pieces as well.
Right.
So yeah, really great. And then a couple more. So the Murder on the Orient Express adaptation from 1974. So I mean, this is kind of a classic, like it's kind of the blueprint for, this kind of whodunit story. And then one other movie is Clue. So based on the board game Clue, we even have at one point Lakeith Stanfield, I think is it Lakeith Stanfield, or is it the other detective who says that like they live in a clue board or something?
I just watched the movie this morning again, and I remember that line, but I can't remember.
Yeah. So, and also
really
Clue really had, the movie Clue also has that kind of like a bit of like satire kind of humor in there. And I think like Clue the game and Clue the movie really are invested in making the house itself a character in the movie, which we also see in Knives Out, which is really fun. So yeah, just a few movie recs for you.
In a way, Clue is also like, since I don't know if you still play the game Clue, but when I was growing up, you played the game Clue. So it was my first reference point for any sort of a whodunit. So like,
yeah,
I feel like Clue is almost the attempt to get a new generation into like a murder mystery whodunit type scenario. And it worked for me.
yeah. I played Clue Junior.
Yeah.
Anyone else played Clue Junior? Because I wasn't old enough for the real Clue, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's a pretty, I mean, a bunch of 6-year-olds faking murders, you know.
Yeah. You know, I don't even know. Was it a murder in Clue Junior, or was it, here, I'm gonna look it up. Clue Junior.
I remember there was also
no, it's a case of a missing cake.
Well, that's worse.
In Clue Junior, it's a missing cake. Yeah.
Don't steal my cake.
Who took a piece of cake? It's only a piece of cake. It's not even the whole cake. Like, this is a very low stakes mystery.
We're losing the story. There was also a computer game that came free in cereal boxes of Clue. They did like, I think Cheerios and a bunch of other of those like basic generic brands that you think of when you think cereal had these like really not badly made, but just like quickly made CD versions of classic board games. And one of them was Clue. It was the better one.
Nice. Very nice. Oh, in my search results, there's a video that came up called How to Play Clue Junior. So I will be watching that later.
Obviously.
Oh, that's great. Clue Junior. What a time to be alive. What I loved about Clue Junior, though, was that not only did you get to be like kind of a kooky character, but you also got to be a detective. That like it turned all the characters into detectives.
Yeah.
Kind of like what was the murder mystery game that they played on The Office? It was like Bells, Bourbon, and Bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, Bells, Bourbon, and something.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good episode. I think that one was I feel like that one was only done because Ed Helms has the Georgia accent. So they're like, we need this guy to do this accent.
My name is Deborah. It was like, Deborah, you taunt.
Yeah. Deborah, you.
And then Andy's trying to correct her, and he was like, see, what you're doing is kind of a Florida panhandle, and what you want is a Savannah accent. And then when Oscar tries to do a Southern accent,
yeah,
that's the best.
Oh, I haven't thought about that episode in a very long time.
I wonder if that was partly Daniel Craig's inspiration for his accent. It was like Andy on The Office playing a murder mystery game.
Yeah. It was on his vision board for like,
I'm Caleb Crawdad.
I'm Caleb Crawdad. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, The Office.
Oh, great. You could say that episode of The Office was like a precursor to Knives Out, because it's like The Office did a murder mystery and suddenly we had to make a movie that was a murder mystery. Coincidence?
I mean, come on. I think not. Rhonda, we just became detectives. We're so cool. We are not unlike the famous detectives for hire through the ages that I researched.
Oh, tell me about those.
So I was really
Sherlock Holmes. Wait, was Sherlock Holmes a real person?
He was modeled after a real forensic scientist.
Oh.
Named Dr. Joseph Bell.
From CSI?
Yes. From CSI and then also SVU.
And CSI Miami.
I think Miami was more of his passion project.
Yeah.
He was like the most inserted into that world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who can blame him? You know?
Yeah. So I actually as I was researching for this episode, I wanted to know, like, were there actual, like, could I walk into an office and say, listen, see, I need
Where's
someone to help
Smitty?
me. Exactly. Like, and some guy or girl would come with, like, I don't know, a nice hat and like well dressed, and I'll solve that problem for you. And there were like real, you could just walk into an office and have counsel with a detective for hire.
I mean, there are private investigators now who will like investigate things for you, not necessarily solve crimes maybe, but like, yeah.
Which just always sounds like it's made up. I know
right.
that's
it's like
real.
Veronica Mars.
Yeah, Jessica Jones kind of.
Yeah, that's real though.
I know that those are real things that happen, but my mind, like, maybe I've spent too long in the elementary classroom, but my mind is like, no, that doesn't actually like happen, but it does. So I did want to start with Dr. Joseph Bell just because he is the inspiration for Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes is kind of a major entry point for all of these stories. So Dr. Joseph Bell was a forensic scientist that was a medical professional first, but he's noted as the first person to kind of use details about the body to kind of decide what might have happened. So it was obviously based in science, but it was also a little bit of a whodunit, or like a what happened, that kind of thing, to a greater degree than what was happening at the time in the medical profession in terms of like solving the why behind it, and most importantly was that the writer of Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle, studied under this forensic scientist. So this is like, it's not just, oh, he might have been inspired. He like really studied under him. And that's where he got a lot of his inspiration for the character. And yeah, he like would teach his students to, in a very Sherlock Holmes way, like, I see a print on their finger. I see a
little silhouette of a man.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche. Will you do the Fandango? But like
Thunderbolt and lightning.
Very, very frightening. Okay. You guys, the rest of the episode is just
Bohemian Rhapsody all the way down.
So like,
I have never heard. Okay, well, first of all, I've never been to a dueling piano bar, but I've never heard a room full of people so excited as when they played Bohemian Rhapsody at that dueling piano bar.
It was very fun. That was, it's a good time. Yeah. It's
none of the people in that room were born when that song first came out, but we knew all the words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
And you know what? A dueling piano bar, excellent place to host a whodunit. That's all I'm saying.
It would be. Oh my gosh.
It would be.
You could write a whodunit that took place at a dueling piano bar. That would be, I would read that. Or watch
verbal copyright right now. Verbal
TM.
Copyright. TM. Yes. So we all kind of know about Sherlock Holmes, but did you know about Maud West?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
You've got a feeling. Okay. So one of the most like popular private detectives in London in like the first half of the 20th century was Maud West. And she was often called London's premier lady detective, which just to me sounds like she's trying to find like pads, like I'm a lady detective.
The number one ladies detective agency.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
Great books.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so good. She, it was really interesting too. She started her career as an actress. And kind of like, I had this vision of her like running to go on the stage and then like solving a murder and then like running back on stage for her entry. I love this woman's life.
Where's
I love
that
the
TV
idea.
show?
Right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, copyright.
TM.
Belongs to us. And it, it made it because she was an actress, and also because she was like the best and most notable private detective at the time. It made it really necessary for her to be an excellent master of disguise, you might say.
Like Dana Carvey.
Like Dana Carvey. Yes, mostly the turtle costume. Turtle. Oh dear. That movie. Oh goodness. The episode of How Did This Get Made for that movie? Chef's kiss. Like, go listen to that.
Yeah.
After you're done listening to this series.
Uh-huh.
But it was also noted that because she was female, like she had to specifically dress as a man to get where she needed to go in London society at the time. Very different time in the 20th century. So
sure.
She needed, she specifically focused on costumes that looked male identified. And she was like, I don't know, I feel like being known as the best detective is good for business, but like really bad for your business.
Right.
Kind of like,
because people know who you are, then they're not, they're not gonna open up to you.
And if you're starring in like whatever on a stage, and then the next day you're like solving a murder, I don't know. I just just doesn't make much sense to me.
It's honestly like if Daniel Craig decided to become a real life private investigator.
Yes.
I don't think that would work very well.
I don't think that would work out. Also, like, I don't think it would be as lucrative as, being Daniel Craig.
As being James Bond.
Like,
which he's not anymore. But.
No, that
but he's still Benoit Blanc. He's still Benoit Blanc, though. So that's going to be very lucrative for him.
Let's hope. I'm still nervous about the second movie slump, but that's neither here nor there. So
we'll see.
Yeah. About Maud West, I did want to note, I'm doing my little Mindy Kaling finger. I did want to note that one of Maud West's most like noted cases was she followed a rich British heiress to different naval bases, and it turned out that the British heiress was actually a spy. So I mean,
excellent.
I mean, that's a champagne evening for West, isn't it?
Like Christopher Marlowe.
Yes.
Who was a spy.
Weenie, 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 weenie. We need like a soundboard with the Twilight Zone.
We do. I can
totally
add it. I can add it in post. I'll add it in post.
Oh, brilliant.
Reader, she did not add it in post.
Alas, dear reader. Russ is busy, damn it. And Erin doesn't know what she's doing, frankly. So it's also really interesting to me that I'm going to jump in my notes a little bit, because Maud West and another noted detective, Kate Easton, were like rival actresses together in London. Like they had acted together, and then they're like,
where is this TV show?
Where is this TV show? This is like so interesting. Like it took, and it was really interesting too when I was researching this was hard to find. Like there wasn't like a myriad of, like when we researched Shadow and Bone, and it was just like right at our fingertips, this was hard to find. This was like, took a second. But yeah, so Maud, I always want to say Mae West.
Mae West, yeah.
Wouldn't that be a plot twist? But Maud West knew Kate Easton and had worked with her in a capacity as an actress. And Kate Easton was the first female detective to set up office in London. So even before Maud came along, there was Kate Easton, and the tagline of her her kind of advertising campaign was
Uh-huh.
blackmail, divorce, evidence, robbery. I undertake it all. I have touched everything except murder. Where is this television show?
Seems a bit anticlimactic, that tagline. I don't know
Isn't
about
it?
that.
It's kind of like she's
I
trying
touched
to
everything except murder.
except murder though.
Do you think it was because she was trying to like maintain like her reputation as like a respectable lady? Like a respectable lady detective wouldn't get into murder because that's too, unladylike.
Right.
Do you think?
Or maybe she was trying to make sure she didn't get blamed for a murder.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'll do blackmail, I'll do divorce, I got your evidence, I got your robbery, but I don't do murder.
Not doing murder. No.
Not doing murder.
Yeah.
Good for you, Easton. Set your boundaries.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Like it.
So she, as I noted, she had acted with Maud West and they like became these like, I don't know, I think comedic rivals. Like I have this image of like Maud West like on the scene like chasing some bad guy and then Kate Easton like, damn it, I gotta go find someone, and like going to find whatever she could. I just liked that they knew each other. And then there was also Kate Warren. So she's often considered the first detective for hire in America. So there's, legend has it that in 1856, she arrives at one of the premier Chicago detective agencies, the Pinkerton Detective Agency. And she asked for a job, and Pinkerton's like, you're a woman. Like we don't do that here. Sorry.
We don't do that here.
We don't do that here. And then Warren noted that if you're not allowing women to be detectives, what like someone a baddie could literally walk into a woman's restroom and like commit a crime, and you would never know about it because you can't go in there. So what do you mean? Like that makes no sense for you as a businessman. And Pinkerton's like, guess you're right, kid, and like begrudgingly let her in or whatever. Damn it, Pinkerton, I just and he said, and obviously in my notes and in the research I did, he wasn't like impressed with her knowledge. He was like, she was plucky and she tried hard. Like, admit you're wrong. Like,
right.
It's exhausting.
A man admit he's wrong.
I know it's not gonna happen, but Warren got onto the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, and she was 23 years old when she first.
Wow.
Yeah, right? How cool is that? Yeah, so I think that was just a really neat snapshot of like being 23 and being like a detective for hire. What an interesting world. Like what a way to become an adult, Wow. She wound up to be one of their most popular and most credible detectives as well. And I don't think that they did start hiring too many other female detectives for quite some time still, but she became one of their.
We've got one. That's enough.
Frankly, we got one
woman. There you go.
there you got your wish, ladies. But interestingly enough, if we go back across the pond, they were opening not one but two ladies detective agencies.
Oh, so there was number one ladies detective agency.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's in Botswana, though.
Yeah, that's not. But same, So there was the Moser's Ladies Detective Agency and the Slater's Women's Detectives. So like there's some branding going on there. But I'm like Robin from How I Met Your Mother. But Um,
People are starting a drinking game.
they are. Sorry, friends. I apologize. And again, these two detective agencies were like really competitive with each other. So they were female powered detective agencies. They really built that way on when they were opening up their business. They were really into like, yeah, we got the ladies. These are the women. So Slater's Women's Detectives was created by Henry Slater. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And Slater was a top,
not
a top
AC
detective.
Slater.
No, he was not involved.
Unfortunately.
So Slater was a top detective with Scotland Yard. And his rival, Maurice Moser, set up Moser's Women's Detectives. So again, we have these comically like paired rivals across town setting up and solving murder.
And also like perfect material for a TV show.
Where is it?
That does not exist.
Come on.
What are we doing? Netflix.
What do we
get on?
Give us a call. Just any time that like, I don't know. I think rivalries exist in the world because we're humans and we're competitive, but reading about them just makes me giggle. So I wanted to share.
I also kind of wonder though, like the rivalry between Maud West and Kate Easton, I wonder how much of that was actually them and how much of it was just like sensationalized for mass consumption, you know?
Yeah.
Because like the media loves to pit women against each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like it's tried to pit us against each other many times. But
it pitted so many people. Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Ovaries before broveries.
Damn it.
That's sisters before misters.
Sisters before.
Yeah. So I kind of wonder like, and also maybe if like, I'm completely speculating here, but if Maud West and Kate Easton, West and Easton, East and West, that's incredible. That it's writing itself. The Netflix show is writing itself. But I also wonder if Maud and Kate like were aware of how they were perceived and kind of played up their rivalry, maybe. Like, I'm just writing a Netflix pilot in my head right now.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great story.
I also love the world where they really do despise each other and they're like, they both audition for the same part and one of them gets it, but the same week the other one solves a really big mystery and it's just like every bit as dramatic as it sounds. I love both of those realities.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe they are truly rivals, but then like in the season finale they have to come together to solve like a really big murder.
Yeah.
Oh, Erin,
Netflix, come at us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, anyway. That's great. Yeah, I kind of like, so before we knew anything about like, before it was even confirmed that we were getting a sequel to Knives Out, I had kind of thought like, oh, what if like in the sequel we have Marta as the detective now?
Ew.
Like I felt like that would have like, I mean, that's not happening, but I thought that would have been great. Or we have like or she like joins forces with Benoit Blanc and he's kind of like teaching her the ropes as he's solving a new crime. And I thought that would have been interesting.
I love that because she's such a compelling performer. I wanted more of her. Like, I think Daniel Craig is so fun too, obviously, but I'm so captivated by it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think if they were taking one person, if they could only take one, I would go Marta instead, I think. But yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
No offense, Daniel Craig, you're lovely.
Full offense, Daniel Craig. Okay. Well,
That's the official Pop DNA skip.
that's the end of the
Full
episode. That's our official
podcast.
motto. We'll make t-shirts that say "Full offense, Daniel Craig."
Full offense, Daniel Craig. Frankly,
like Leslie Knope's body pillow is
yes,
is Daniel Craig.
yes.
All right, we better wrap this up before we get too off the rails here. Yeah. What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're
I feel like
talking about
our part 3s always get a little dark.
Yeah, we're
And that's
talking
holding
about
true here.
that dysfunction,
Ooh.
the dysfunction in family.
No, that's part 4.
Oh, never mind.
Part 3, we're gonna talk about some deep psychological issues and social class and privilege
and
how they intersect with crime. So,
yeah, you know, as I was saying dysfunctional family, I was thinking crime. So I think my brain just did a little skip. Like when you have a turntable, it was like skip.
Okay.
Skip.
We'll go with that. All right. Well, okay, that's next time.
Yeah.
You know where to find us.
In your dreams.
Yeah. Make sure that you so a cool thing about Spotify, we if you listen to us on Spotify, if you go to the landing page for each episode, sometimes you'll find like questions that we're asking or polls that we've put up, and you can answer those. And you know, like if we get like some cool witty answers, then we might talk about them on the pod here. So
yeah,
check that out.
If you have a mystery for us to solve, this is now also the Pop DNA Detective Agency.
It is.
So just let us know.
We will be taking cases. Also follow us on Instagram, because we post some extra content there sometimes, and book recommendations. Yeah. And that's it.
Yay.
Evan, do you have anything to add?
No.
No, I don't. That's what he actually said. Okay. Well, then we will see you next time, friends.
Goodbye.
Bye.